And welcome to All Together Now. This is Tramshed's free art program on YouTube Live. My name is Imogen, and today we are going to be trying some printing, specifically potato printing. So welcome. If you don't know what you need yet, then there's a little list. Hopefully you can see that on your camera, but we will go through all of the things in a minute. Oh, brilliant. It's come up big for us. God, they're so fast, the tech people at the Tramshed. Okay, so before we start properly, to get the most up-to-date session, if you go onto YouTube, which hopefully is where you're watching this, so I'm trying to read my notes to make sure I say the right thing. Can you choose live chat rather than top chat on the chat function? And that way we can kind of interact with you and you can be a bit more connected to all of us in the session. We can kind of have conversations that way. And then also if you're really stuck, you can say, Imogen, stop what you're doing, explain this again. And hopefully I will be able to respond. The other thing I need to say is that the session is 45 minutes long and it's going to stay up on Tramshed's YouTube page. So if you need to rush off in half an hour, that's no problem. You can come back to it. But also you can share the link with your friends and WhatsApp it to people. You can email it to your colleagues. You can do it one lunchtime, maybe at work. So yeah, it will stay up for you to watch again and again and again, or send it to other people if you want to. The last thing I'm going to say before we get properly stuck into our potato printing workshop is that if you know someone who doesn't have digital access, then we do have an activity sheet which you can print out. So this isn't the only way to access the workshop. So you can get that on our website, but if someone doesn't have access to that, they can also call the Tramshed phone number and someone can print it off and post it to them, which is fantastic. So if you know anyone who might really benefit from that service, then please let them know, let us know, see if we can get in touch. We would love this workshop to be as accessible to as many people as possible. Okay, right, I think I'm ready to start now. That was a lot. I feel like I said a lot in 2 minutes, but we're going to keep going. So potato printing. You are going to need potatoes, preferably some large ones. I've got a really large one. You don't need one quite this big. But if you've got one, fantastic. A knife, a chopping board, paint, a plate, so to put your paints on. Paper plate is fine, or you know, you don't really need a plate if you don't want one, but sometimes it's quite nice to have a palette. Paper or card, and a pencil and pen. So we're gonna try. No, that's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to change, sorry. So the reason that I really love potato printing is because I think it's really fun, but it's also really cheap and really easy. So if this is your first foray into kind of the printing world, then this is going to be a great place to start. But also, if you've been making different prints for eons and eons, then potato printing never gets boring. It never gets old, at least not for me anyway. There's always something new you can do with it. And because it is relatively cheap, it's just all you're really paying for is potatoes and some paints. It doesn't kind of matter if you mess up, if you think, oh, that wasn't that good, you can always just try again. We've got some other things which you might want to have as well. So optional things are a paintbrush. Also, you could have an envelope and a stamp, so you can send your print to a friend. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Or some blue tack, so you can display your artwork maybe in your window. If you've got a window you walk past frequently, that's going to be a lovely place to put it. If you struggle with cutting and you think that cutting with a knife might not be that easy for you, then the other thing you can use is a sponge, which is kind of instead of your potato, and some scissors. So instead of using a knife and a potato, you can kind of cut the shapes out of your sponge using your scissors, and that is going to make equally beautiful prints, but that's a really good one if you think you might struggle with using a knife. If you are using a knife and you're not that sure about it, then you do need to make sure you're doing that with kind of an adult who is comfortable using knives. So if that isn't the case, please stick to scissors and sponges. Otherwise, we'll go full steam ahead with our knives and our potatoes. Okay, so before we get really stuck in, I am going to try to see if we can set a little challenge for ourselves today. So this challenge is going to be to see how many of the NHS's 5 ways to wellbeing that we can hit within one 45-minute workshop. So the 5 ways to wellbeing, which are listed on the NHS website, is kind of the 5 different things we can do to make us feel really good. Connecting with other people, paying attention to the present moment, so that's also called mindfulness, learning new skills, being physically active, and giving to others. So we might not be able to hit all of those. I feel like that's a big challenge, but we're going to see if we can hit as many as possible within the next 45 minutes. And I don't know about anyone else, but this is like, I'm getting pretty sick now of like lockdown after lockdown. I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow and things are going to start to open up again. But this has been like a pretty heavy start to the year for everyone. So I think there's definitely nothing wrong with trying to squeeze in as many of those ways to wellbeing as possible. We're going to try to do that. So keep in mind during the workshop these kind of 5 things and see if you think, oh, I'm doing that one or I'm doing that one. Maybe post it to us in the chat on your YouTube live and let us know kind of which one you think you might be hitting. The first one we can hit straight off is connecting. If you are watching live, then please do let us know who you are, where you're watching from in the chat. That is a great way to kind of start that connection as soon as possible. Hopefully there'll be other people in the chat who can message you back. But also, if you're kind of not watching live, then please send this workshop to a friend. As I said before, you kind of do it with a bunch of colleagues all over YouTube together. That would be a great way to kind of, a nice way to spend time with someone virtually. So we're hitting that connecting one already. Okay. So going back before we kind of start properly to resources and the things that you need to do this workshop properly. Hopefully you have kind of seen in advance the list of things that you might need, but if you haven't, then you might still be scrambling around to kind of get a few of those bits, and that's fine. So you can go and get those things kind of now. I'm going to be talking through for the next few minutes or so the different things I'm going to be using. So we talked about potatoes, and I said large potatoes, and I've got a large one here. If you've only got small potatoes, that's also not a problem. Any kind of root vegetable is going to work well. The reason that potatoes are particularly good is because if you kind of slice them down the middle, you've got this like nice flat clean edge. So it's kind of similar to an apple. An apple has like a core in the middle, so you're already going to get, if you imagine painting your kind of potato, or you could do it with an apple, if you've got a gap in the middle where there's not going to be any paint, then you've already kind of got holes in where you're printing. The good thing of a potato is that because it's all flat, if you cut into it, then you're making the holes and you're deciding where there isn't going to be paint. So printing is all about kind of negative space and thinking about where the paint isn't going to be on the paper, or where the potato isn't going to be, so where you're going to cut away the potato. If you don't have a large potato, then you could use lots of little potatoes. That could look really nice. You could do different colour potatoes and make them like nice patterns. If you had, for example, a parsnip or something like that, which is long, then you might not get so much like round flat surface area, but you could kind of cut it lengthways and you could make like a really long fish or like a snake or something like that. That would be really, really cool. I was also thinking earlier that if you had a beetroot, then you probably wouldn't even need paints at all, because the beetroot is already so beautifully coloured. I don't have a beetroot, so I haven't tried it. If you try it, then please send us a picture, let us know. At the end of the workshop, we'll kind of go through Tramshed socials, and they'll also be available in the chat near the end of the workshop, so you can send them to us that way. I would love to see if anyone has tried beetroot printing. The next thing is a knife. So I've got here quite a small knife. It's not too sharp, but it's also not too blunt. The reason I'm using this knife is because it's the right size for the job. So I don't want to use a knife which is really, really big, because that's just going to be quite hard to kind of carve delicate detail with. If I'm using a knife that's too big, I might end up cutting myself, which I actually did this morning. It wasn't potato related. I was making my breakfast, but I actually sliced my thumb. It was also a different knife. I was using the wrong knife for the job. So there you go. Definitely never use the wrong knife for the job, and don't let yourself be fooled into thinking that, you know, you don't need to concentrate while you're using the knife. You definitely do, even if you are a knife expert. The other reason that I was talking about it not being too sharp or not being too blunt is because either of those extremes might make it more likely for you to cut yourself. So you just want a kind of standard, nice, small knife. If you don't have a knife which kind of looks similar to my one, so I don't know what this knife is called, but something like that which isn't too big and it kind of has a sharp edge but isn't gonna like slice your finger off, then you can also just use like a thinner knife. That's fine. My potatoes are like pretty old. You can see they've got like, I can't remember what these things are called now, but you know what they are. You know what they are. These little little things, little potato hair, spiky potato hair coming out of them, and they're quite soft. So I got them a few weeks ago. They've been sitting kind of in a bag under my desk. So with a potato like that, you can definitely use just like a knife. It doesn't have to be that sharp. And that's actually always what I've done previously, because I've never had a knife. It was quite that perfect for potato printing before. You can definitely use a dinner knife. A chopping board. So I've got kind of a big, oh, there we go. I think, no, you can't see both. Sorry, I thought they'd turned on my spud cam, which you're going to be able to see later. So I've kind of got a big, heavy chopping board. And that chopping board is kind of quite, well, it's good for kind of all things, but it's quite stable. It doesn't like move around too much. And if you have like a smaller chopping board, or you've got like a plastic chopping board, then it's a really good idea to get like a wet tea towel and kind of drain it off a bit, do that to it so that it's kind of just a bit damp, and then fold it and just slip it under your chopping board and then put your chopping board on top. And that's just going to create some friction. If you're cutting loads of potatoes, the chopping board isn't kind of going to slide around, it's going to stay in one place. The next thing, paints. Okay, we're going to start this video. Welcome to my spud cam. Okay, so yesterday I tested out some different kinds of paints for potato printing, and I'm going to see, hopefully you can kind of see. So I've got acrylic, is this one. So obviously the colours weren't like exactly the same in each different kind, but I tried to make them as similar as I could do. So we've got acrylic is this one, poster paint is this one, and watercolour is this one. So you can see the watercolour, the colours are like slightly less bright, and maybe, I'm not sure how easy it is for you to see, but it's kind of white at the top and more pink at the bottom here. And in the watercolour, that kind of bleeds into each other in a kind of more subtle way than the poster paint and the acrylic. But the main thing, the main kind of reason I'm showing you this, is that all of them work. So you definitely don't need any kind of special, really, really fancy paint. Whatever paint you might have lying around. The paints that I'm using today, I bought for £8 off the internet. So paints aren't that cheap, but certainly they're not wildly expensive. And if you can afford a nice set like this, then you've got loads of different colours in them. This is going to do loads and loads of prints, okay? Just a small amount of paint like this is going to do quite a lot of prints. So I would definitely advise investing if you can. And if you like the workshop, then you can kind of keep going, keep making more. I mentioned earlier that I've got my plates. I'm gonna just put my plate there. That's just a little plate that I can kind of put paints on. I've got paper and cards. So again, just like I said before, we don't really need any fancy, I was gonna say ingredients, but we're not cooking. Kind of like cooking, but we're not. We don't need any fancy resources. So I've got an old envelope. I've got paper that I pulled out of a notebook. I didn't even realise that one's got a pen on it. I've got lined paper, okay. Then I've got a pencil and a pen. That hopefully needs no explanation. They're definitely not fancy pencils and pens. Okay, I'm just going to check my notes, check I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, no, I think that's everything. Okay, fab. Oh, I've also got some post-it notes. Again, that is just like, it's just a square of paper. The point of showing you all of this paper is to hopefully get across that you really don't need anything too luxurious to make this. So I quite like testing out my potato prints and little post-it notes, and what's nice about that is then I can then stick them up if I really like them. I can stick them all over my house, which is really nice. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do when we make our potato prints is to do a design. So it might be that you have a secret stash of 300 potatoes sitting, hiding somewhere in your kitchen, and you think, oh, I never need to do any design because I'm just going to work with these potatoes. That's fantastic. For me, I've only got 2 potatoes that I'm willing to give up to the potato printing cause. So I want to do a design first so that when I come to kind of carve into the potato, I know it's definitely what I want to do, so that I'm not going to waste any potato. So to do this, I'm going to start with my lined paper, which hopefully you can see on my spud cam. I'm going to move my other bits of paper out the way for now. And I'm going to start thinking about what I said before about that kind of negative space. So the places where the potato isn't is also the places where the paint won't be on your page. So I'm going to illustrate this. No, it's up there. Just by bringing you back to these kind of paints I made before, where you've got the kind of watercolor, the poster, and the acrylic. So this, if you can't tell, is meant to be an ice dolly. And to make this, I used kind of a circular-ish bit and then like a chip-like bit. So I put my chip and I put that on top. And I used two separate bits for kind of two reasons. One is that it's easier to cut. Two is that they were different colours, so it was kind of easier to print that way. And I kind of like the look when you have different parts. So firstly, I made a chip. These are kind of really old now, so I made them yesterday, and then I wrapped them in cling film so that I could show you today. They're kind of floppy and horrible. I made this chip, and then I made this bit, and I'm not sure how well you can see, but I cut lines into the potato to kind of make these lines where it's kind of white, where there isn't any paint for the ice dolly. And although on the actual potato, the lines I made look kind of quite thin, I feel like when they went to the print, they look like quite big gaps. So again, thinking about the space where the paint isn't, that's kind of the bit that stands out in printing. So even though it's quite small, it looks quite big on the print because it really stands out. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing to think about when you're printing is how kind of why you're using printing instead of painting or drawing or any other kind of art form. So the good thing about printing is that you can do it once and then you can print it again and again and again and again and again, and then you'd probably throw it away at the end of the day if it was a potato because it would start to go kind of gross. But you could print quite a lot in a day. So if you're doing something really, really kind of delicate and detailed and you're cutting loads and loads of kind of delicate shapes into it, then it might start to fall apart quicker. So if you've got loads and loads of cuts, it's probably not going to last that long. And also, if you're doing something really delicate and fantastic and beautiful, I have absolutely no doubt that will look amazing, but it might be worth just painting that straight on. So you could, for example, if you were doing a papaya, so that's kind of a fruit and it's got like a big fleshy, if you imagine a papaya cut in half, it's got like a big fleshy outside and then it's got loads and loads and loads of black seeds. So if I was going to do a papaya, I might take my potato and I might cut like a hole in the middle, and then that bit wouldn't have paint in it, the hole in the middle. I would cover the rest in paint, and then I might just use a paintbrush after I've done the print using my spud cam there, to kind of dab loads of little seeds on, rather than trying to carve thousands of seeds in a potato, which might just be more tricky and it might fall apart quicker and it might just be easier to paint it on. So always kind of thinking, why am I doing this design for this art form, and what can this particular art form of printing bring to the design I'm making? If you just going to check if there's something I'm missing to say. So the other thing that I tend to do personally when I'm printing is I almost always end up making food. It's not necessarily deliberate, it's just something that I always end up doing. But I think there's good reason for it. Food is really recognisable. So this is a potato print that I made for Christmas a few years ago. I made loads of Brussels sprouts Christmas cards. And if you don't know, Brussels sprouts grow like on stalks. So I didn't know this until recently. They kind of grow, yeah, like you can see in the picture. So they kind of grow upwards on a stalk, and then you've got all the little Brussels running around the stalk like that. So I made one Brussels stamp, and then I could stamp it loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of times to make a stalk of Brussels sprouts. That one does have like quite a lot of cuts in it, but you can kind of see, what I did is I looked up a picture of Brussels sprout on the internet because I couldn't bring one to my mind. Sometimes it's just easier to Google it, and then you've got it right there in front of you, because we don't always remember things in an accurate way. We don't always picture them exactly how they look. The other one that I did this morning when we were doing a practice was a chili. So I'm going to put this, my spud cam's gone. Please could I have my spud cam back? Thank you. That would be fab. So I've got my chili that I did this morning. and I'll show you how that looks in the end. So hopefully you can see that. Thank you for popping my spud cam. Oh, it wasn't even in the right place. Look. So hopefully you can see that. That's the chili I did. And then here you've got, that was the red bit, and that's the kind of little chili hat. So I had 2 different prints, and I put them on, and I stuck them down, and I made that little chili print. Here, I didn't do this one, the leaf one anyway, but here you've got another example, leaves, beautiful ones to do. And again, it's kind of like a simple design. If you want to do something more abstract, so earlier we spoke about if you have like smaller potatoes, you might have less space to actually carve in, and it might be easier to do something more abstract. Then here are some fantastic ideas. I got these off the internet. I didn't make them myself. I'm not that creative. But this one, you can see they kind of cut little lines into the potato. And I think, although I couldn't promise you, what they've done is it kind of looks like they've made Easter eggs. So it's quite on theme. What they've done is they've kind of painted it pink, and they've stuck it down, and then they've painted it the same print. You could paint it again yellow, so that you kind of have those two colours kind of going on top of each other like that. The next one, the penguin. I think the penguin is so cute. They've cut out a little heart in the middle, so you've just got the black around the outside, and you can't see that kind of middle bit because the potato isn't there, so there's not any paint there. And then they've used their finger to kind of put some little feet on. I think that is fantastic. I think that one's so cute. I'm going to whiz through these 2 because I feel like I've done a lot of talking now and I just want to start printing. But here are 2 I made previously. This one is rhubarb. I like doing rhubarb because, again, it had the easy, I've now lost my little chip. It started with quite an easy little chip shape. And rhubarb's quite nice because the colour kind of changes. So it kind of is dark pink, and then it's lighter pink, and then it's dark pink again. And I think that always looks really nice on a print. I already had the leaf one because I used the leaf for a fig, which I was doing. And then I did the banana as well. For the banana, that was 3 different stamps. One was the banana skin that was kind of coming off the triangle. One was the banana bottom that had skin on it, and one was the banana top. And I kind of did 1, 2, 3, and then I did the 3rd one, which is the kind of banana skin coming off the triangle. I just put it on twice. Okay, that is enough of me telling you how you should do your printing. The most important thing of potato printing is that, because, as I've been wanging on about, it's not that expensive, it shouldn't be that special, it's just a potato. The key thing is to just do whatever you want with it and ignore everything I've said, because if it ends up looking rubbish, you can probably just use the other half of your potato and it's not the end of the world. And sometimes it's better to just throw yourself into it and do it, because personally I find that sometimes, so I want to do something creative, I can sit there like staring at the page and I can kind of become frozen in how am I going to do it and what am I going to do and what if it doesn't look good enough. Don't do that. Just try to have fun with it. Try to enjoy it. So if you are in the I've got Q&As and I haven't been looking, and I'm so sorry. Karen, I'm glad you love the wellbeing tips. Becca's joining from Norwich, and Emma loves the name of the podcast. Well, thanks everyone, and I will get better at looking at the Q&As. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have a draw of some ideas, and I would love for you to have a draw of some ideas as well, or even just have a think about what you might want to do. And then tell me in the chat, and this time I will actually respond to the Q&As, what you are thinking of doing. So I've been having a long think, and I think I'm going to do a peach. So I'm going to draw it quite big so that you can hopefully see on the spud cam. I'm going to start. Oh, the other one thing I didn't mention, but I think is a really good one to do, is emojis. Because emojis are recognizable, just like most fruit and veg, and they're pretty simple. They tend to be 1 or 2 colors. That's the other reason I do fruit and veg. They're kind of simple colors, often simple shapes, although not always, and fairly recognizable. So emojis are another good one to do. Someone did suggest that I do the poo emoji, but it's just so many curves, and a curved line is quite difficult, and I don't trust myself to do that on a YouTube live. But if I wasn't on camera, then I would try it out, and maybe you should try it out. I would love to see it. Okay, so I'm kind of doing a little circle. There we go. Oh, you know what? I keep thinking there's like a line between on my camera, but it's actually just my phone screen's cracked. So I keep being like, what's that line? But my phone screen has just cracked. So hopefully you can't see that line. Oh, it looks kind of like an apple now I've drawn it. You could do an apple, but the thing is with an apple is that an apple print would actually look better if you cut an apple in half. So you could just do that rather than try to cut it as a potato. Okay, I'm going to do a little kind of dent there. I'm going to move it from the spud cam in case you can't see it. I don't know why I don't trust the spud cam. That's my peach. It's not the best peach in the world, but it's a good start. The other thing I could do, another idea that I might do, Emily suggested a flower, which I think is a lovely idea. So with a flower, what I'd probably do to make my life easier is do the middle bit. I'm really bad at like the anatomy of a flower, so apologies that I don't know any of the correct words, but the middle bit of the flower, I would do one stamp. I'd probably do a circle. And then I'd probably do one singular petal stamp, because I think it would be quite difficult to get all of my petals in a kind of good circular shape. So I'd do petal there, and then I just stamp the same petal stamp, potato stamp, all the way around. And that's nice because you could make kind of different flowers depending on how many petals you included. So I'm going to get started. Now I've done my design, and I'm going to start by cutting my spud in half. There's a few different ways that you can cut your spuds. I'm moving the spud cam. The easiest way, particularly if you think that it might be difficult for you to kind of hold things which are really delicate, and if it might be easier to kind of be able to hold one solid thing, then the easiest way is going to be to cut your potato directly in half, like I did with this one, and then just carve into it, and then you've always got like a really strong handle. The other option is to slice your potato like this, and you don't have a strong handle, but you've got lots of surface area for carving and designing. So this one, you've got the same surface area that you can kind of draw your design into, and you've got a better handle. This one, you've got one slice, but you could obviously make quite a few slices out of the same potato, but you kind of lose some of that handle. Other thing to think about before you start is how to cut your potato. So if you cut it, you can see that my potato is like kind of longer than it is wider. So if I cut it like here, if I cut it widthways, I think is the right word, then I'm going to have less surface area. So I'm going to cut it so that I've got maximum surface area, just because that makes it easier to do a design. Oh, that one's juicy. I've got potato juice going out everywhere. Gross. Okay. I've got my potato in half now. One thing we didn't do, I think, I can't see the PowerPoint. I don't know if other people can. One thing I didn't say is about some knife safety tips. So one thing is always cutting downwards, so cutting like that. Or if you're carving, then holding your potato really kind of sturdily, is that a word? Hope so. And kind of carving into it rather than holding it in your hand and cutting like that, because if you hold it in your hand, it's going to quite easily go all the way through and stab your hand. It's bad, and do not do that. If you have it on the chopping board, particularly if you've got that wet tea towel underneath your chopping board, then it's going to definitely kind of stay still, and it's going to be a lot safer. If you drop your knife, do not try to catch it. It's not worth it. You can pick up once it's fallen on the floor. I would just move away as fast as possible. And if you leave the room for whatever reason, particularly if you have like small children or people who maybe don't know what you're doing or are less confident using knives than you are, please take your knife with you or put it somewhere safe. Don't just kind of leave it on the table for someone to kind of grab it. And that goes for pets as well, because in my old house, I used to have a dog. And if my dog saw some food up here, then it would definitely try to grab it if I wasn't in the room. And if my knife was too close to my potato and it grabbed the potato, then the knife might fall on the dog as well. And obviously nobody wants that. So knife safety is super important. But now I'm going to cut. I'm going to start with my peach, I think. I've got my design here. I might just rip it out so you can see it doesn't take up all of my chopping board. There we go. Okay, there's my peach. So sometimes you can kind of use the potato and its circular nature to kind of help you, because if you're doing something that's a circle and your potato is a circle, you might not need to start in the middle. I probably don't want my peach to be quite as big as this whole potato, so I probably will start in the middle rather than kind of using the edge outline as my peach. Amazing. Cutting. Supervised children. Use the right kind of knife. Use a safe knife. Use a board. Cut downwards and away. Store your knife safely and never catch a falling knife. There we go. Fantastic. Okay. Cutting. So I'm going to start with, I think I'll probably do it that way. Start with the kind of circular shape of the outside of the peach. And I might go in a little bit there, mightn't it? Come out a little bit. Okay. Oh, one thing I haven't mentioned, which we discovered this morning, is that because when you're printing, your print reverses as you press it onto the paper. So if you're doing words, then you'll have to write your words backwards. It's pretty complicated, but I have full faith in you that you can definitely do it. And if you manage to write your words backwards, then I want to see pictures as proof. So please send them in. I don't know if you can send pictures on the YouTube live chat. If you can, then I would love to see how your potato print is going. Okay, so I've kind of done a nice kind of peach shape. And you probably can't see it, but that's kind of okay. And what I want to do now is cut away all the excess potatoes, so that there's kind of space, so that the kind of the peach bit sticks furthest out from the potato. That's going to mean that there's lots of, that there's kind of not other bits of potato which are going to touch my paper when I stick it down. So to do that, I'm going to kind of start, there's my line where it's already cut, and I'm going to kind of push away with my knife and kind of press away and down, so that I'm just slicing off the edges. And that's going to mean that I'm not kind of printing anything that I don't need to be printing. So I'm only printing the shape which I want to make, which is a little peach. And after I've done this, I'm going to make the little leaf, which you might be able to see from my spud cam, the little leaf of the peach. So I'm going to start with the main body of the peach. Again, in all honesty, I'm not 100% sure why people do that. I just have seen other people printing do that, so I do it. But I think the reason that we do it is because it means like colours don't run, firstly, if you're putting like loads of colours on one print. Again, by that point, you might as well be painting, which is great, and you should definitely do that as well. So it kind of means my colours don't run, and it just means that there's a bit more variation in every print, which is kind of really nice, and I like that. Okay, so just because I want this print to be like really clear, I'm going to continue to kind of cut away so that the kind of peach part of my potato is really sticking a lot further out than the kind of potato handle, I'm going to call it, the part of the potato which I'm using to hold. And that's just going to make sure that I'm not putting any potato to paper which isn't my peach. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but Hopefully you can. So I've got my potato handle, or I've got bits of potato dropping onto my laptop. Got my potato handle, and I've got my little peach bit. Okay, now I'm going to make my little leaf. Before I do that, I'm going to check that I haven't forgotten anything to say. Oh, I have forgotten something, obviously. So, thinking back to our 5 ways to well-being, we're going to try to do the mindfulness while we're cutting. So mindfulness while you're cutting is super, super, super important. It is really important to stay aware of the present moment while you're using knives, for obvious reasons. So I don't want anyone to be using their knife if there's like a big commotion going on next to them, or there's loads of noise, or they're feeling really stressed. That's the best time to put down your knife and just wait until things have calmed down a bit. So when you're using a knife, really trying to stay present, stay focused and aware of the present moment. For my leaf, it's a lot smaller. I'm probably going to cut my potato in half again, because I don't really want a really big piece of potato for a really small print. It's just going to be more difficult to work with. Okay, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to cut the leaf. There we go. Okay, so I've done some nice curves. There we go. And I'll do a little smaller leaf as well. If you are having trouble kind of cutting into your potato, then feel free to message on the group. Either I can answer it, or the community of people watching can answer it quicker than I can. I'd also love to know, maybe you're finding it easy. Maybe you're like, this is easy, this is great, I'm going to do it all the time. Maybe you're like, I hate potatoes and I never, ever, ever want to do this again. That's fine too. I want to hear all of the feedback, because it's all really important and helpful. And at the end of the session, I'm going to go through again the ways that you can give feedback. But while we're here and while we're on it, you can email info@tramshed.org, or you can contact us on social media, which is @tramshed_ or @tramshed__, depending on whether it's Instagram or Twitter, and I don't know which one it is, but Jane has very fantastically already put it up. There we go. So let us know what you think. Please, please, please. It's really important for us so that we can keep giving the people what they want. Okay, right. I'm just making my final cuts again, just like I did with the peach. Just trying to make sure that I have as little kind of potato as possible getting too close. I feel like I've got potato on my ear. I did. I have potato in my ear. Getting kind of too close to the leaves. Stem. Bit of the peach that's green. Okay. So I've got my leaves and my peach. I'm just going to do a little line in my peach. Kind of give it some like 3D-ness. I don't know how well that will come through, but that's okay. I'm gonna try it. I've got that horrible feeling of potato on your hands. I don't know if anyone else gets that. They're like chopping lots of potatoes, and the kind of potato juices irritate my hands. If you're having that, then please go and watch them. I would be doing that as well if I could, but I'm going to stay here with you because I don't want to leave you. It would be rude. Okay, so we have got, hopefully, our prints. If you haven't, then you keep cutting, keep doing your mindful cutting. This video, remember, is going to be up here presumably forever, unless it's really awful and they want to take it down for the rest of time. So you can kind of catch up at another time. I think you can even pause it, mute it if you're talking too much, all those things. So definitely be going at your own pace. I've got my paints ready. You can either splosh your paints out onto a plate, stick your print straight into the plate, splosh, 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 and then mash it on the piece of paper. Or you can use a paintbrush. I'm using a paintbrush purely because I haven't been able to figure out how to get my individual paints out of the painting set, which is really silly, but it's true. So I can't splash them onto my paper. I'm going to paint them on instead. For my peach, I will start with my peach. I probably want a mix of like oranges and also some pinks, some beige. Peach is pretty beige. Oh no, I knew this would happen. I was saying before the workshop started that these paints have lids which are really, really difficult to get off. I knew it would take me ages in the session, and they even pre-loosened them so I wouldn't have this embarrassing problem. But here we are, still having it. Okay. Ones I needed now, I think. Oh no, let me get a yellow, that would be nice. Okay. So I am going to start with my peach. I'm probably going to start with my lighter colours. So I'm probably going to start with a yellow, just because it makes sense to start with lighter colours. If I start with a darker colour, then it might be harder to put the lighter on top. But I'm going to go in with some white at the end to kind of give the illusion of like lighting it. Made that sound way more fancy than I actually know. I'm going to get some brown, kind of mix that in with the yellow so it looks kind of a bit more beigey. I'm going to try not to get it on the rest of my potato, because if the rest of my potato does accidentally hit my page, then I don't want it to kind of leave dainty residue. Oh, is that? Oh no, there's another paint. Okay, there we go. I'm going to do it on my spud cam instead so you can actually see. Which way up is it? I think it's that way up, isn't it? Okay. Oh, that was way too red. I've got some water, which I'm just going to... Oh, there we go. It's not too bad. I'll probably get some more yellow. Okay, there we go. It's kind of like an orangey pink. And I'm just gonna splash that. And then I got my white, which I'm gonna dab on that kind of bit of light. There we go. Okay, that's my peach. Now it's time for my leaf. Oh no, I've got to open more paints. This was a really bad print to choose because I'm opening all of the paint colours. It's going to take me so long every time. I'm just going to do one colour of leaf. I'm not going to do two different greens because I'm too embarrassed to keep slowly opening my paint. Okay, cool. I've got my design there, which you can see. I've got my potato here, which you can see. I'm going to start. So when you do your printing, it's a really good idea to kind of, hopefully you can see on the spud cam, like move the potato kind of up and down, like it's doing a little dance or something. Because for most of us, when we slice into a potato, we're not going to slice it perfectly flat. So if you see this potato pushed up against my hand, that one's actually really good. Okay, I'm just really magical. No, there we go. Okay, you can kind of see there's like a gap there where it doesn't like perfectly fit the contours of my hand. It's the same on paper. So you might have like a bit where the potato goes in a bit just because you cut it in a bit of a weird way. So when you've got your potato, you want to kind of push it down like that so that it's definitely all touching the paper. I'm running over here, I'm so sorry. Too much chatting. We'll be done in not too long though, probably 5 minutes or less. Okay, so that's my print. There we go. My first print, and then I've got my little leaf, which I'm going to pop on top. How am I going to do it? Yeah, just about like that. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's my peach. So you can't see the like line that well that I made to kind of make it look 3D. I think it looks pretty 3D anyway. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's a great peach. So if I really wanted that line to become more obvious, then what I'd probably do is dab my potato. I've got some kitchen roll somewhere. I might just, oh, I can't find it, but I will just dab it on here to get rid of those kind of potatoey juices. The thicker your paint is, oh, you can even see it in that one. The thicker your paint is, the more kind of texture you're going to see. So now I've done my peach number 1, I am going to get a little envelope. You can get any paper. We're just going to keep printing now, basically, is the main thing. Just going to check the chat. Okay, just making sure I haven't missed anything. Any kind of paper, and you can keep printing. The great thing about this is that you can kind of go, oh no, I had green on my brush. You can kind of go and go and go, and as long as you don't do anything really silly like put green on your peach, you can kind of keep going. Oh, but now it looks kind of like an apple. I did say that if you're going to do an apple, you might as well just do an apple rather than a potato. We'll see how it looks. Okay. And I'm going to print it onto my envelope like a little seal. So I don't know if you've ever seen, like, I don't know where I've seen this, but I guess in like TV shows of like people from the olden days, they can have like little seals on the back of their envelope. And thinking about those 5 ways to wellbeing, connecting with others is a really, really big one. So if you can kind of do something really nice to someone, like sending them a print, which is giving to others, and then you've cracked up 4 ways to wellbeing already, then that is just a lovely way to connect with other people and give to other people. I love sending post. I think it's super, super nice. So I'm going to print onto the kind of back of this envelope, and then when it dries, I'm going to put a little note in saying hello to a friend. And then when I seal the envelope, it will be like a cool little seal, like a little stamp seal, but it won't be a stamp seal, it will be like a potato print seal. Wait. I'm quite impressed with that. I like that a lot. I love my little peach. Okay, so that's kind of almost the end for me now. But I'm going to kind of keep printing on my peach, and I would definitely encourage you to keep printing with whatever you've made. I am going to complete the 5 ways to wellbeing by doing a little bit of a dance to say well done for making my print. So if you want to have a little boogie, have a little dance break, congratulate yourself with a little dance break. Get that physical activity in. If you don't think that's enough physical activity, then I would encourage you, if you're local, walk to the Tramshed between 12 and 4. You can drop off your creations, and they are going to be included in the wonderful community art gallery that we've got going on at the Tramshed. That's another way to get your physical activity in. If you want to connect with more people, then you can post it, as I mentioned before, or drop it around to a friend's house, or just pop it up in a window where everyone can see it. I'm going to check my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Please, before you log off today, complete our monitoring form, which I believe someone is going to pop in the chat for me. There's going to be a link to it in the YouTube chat. There we go. So the monitoring form is really, really important to help keep these events free. And Tramshed has so many free Altogether Now videos up on their YouTube channel. They come out every Sunday and Tuesday. They have been so fantastic so far. So if this is your first time tuning in, please go back, watch the ones you've got already. This Tuesday, I don't know what's coming up, but I think it will pop up at the end of when I disappear. It's going to pop up. It's going to tell us what's coming up this Tuesday. There have been so many fantastic things. Here we go. Junk Jody fairy making. That sounds amazing. I love fairies and making things and junk. So I'm definitely going to try to make it to that one, and I would encourage you to make it too. So catch up all the sessions, fill out the monitoring form, the activity sheet. So at the very beginning of the session I mentioned, if someone doesn't have access to kind of YouTube or a laptop or a phone, then they can phone us and get our activity sheet. If you liked the session, if you hated the session, if you have feedback on the session, please let us know on our socials. If for some bizarre reason you want to connect with me on my socials, I'm awful at social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm at Olive Mo. So Olive like olives, and then MO_. Tramshed, as we covered, at Tramshed _ or __ or Tramshed Art, it's Facebook. Next time, we're coming up on Tuesday, so be there or be square. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us all together now, and I will see you hopefully at some point in the future. Bye!